So with advanced Excel, we'll cover three topics for advanced capabilities in Excel. We'll look at the if function, the goal seek, and solver functions. The if function is used to conduct conditional tests on formulas and values. The goal seek function is used to find an unknown value that produces a desired result. And the solver function is used to calculate an optimum solution based on several variables and constraints. In business, we're always dealing with a constrained optimization. Businesses don't have unlimited access to resources, and so they have constraints they have to live within. Let's start with the if function. So the if logical function will return one value if a condition is true and another value if the condition is false. We use the if function when we want to compare two items in our workbook. The if function has a format of if and then in parens logical test, and then the second parameter is the value if true, and then the third is the value if false. The logical test is any expression or value that can be evaluated to true or false. The value if true is the value that is returned if the logical test is true. The value if false is the value that is returned if the logical test is false. So let's take a look at this in Excel. And we'll go back to the same data set we were using for the pivot table, which is a regional sales of magazines. And let's say that we wanted to give a bonus if sales were over $1,000. So every time for any particular sale that was made, if the sale was over $1,000, the salesperson gets a $20 bonus. So we'll do that with an if statement. So I'll start, and I created a column F called bonus in my list, and I'm going to say equals sign, and I'll say if, and you'll notice it's a function. And then you can see logical test, value if true, value if false. So the logical test will be if D2 is greater than 1,000, in other words, a particular sale, in this case it's the sale for Business Times in the North region by Rachel Anderson. So if that is greater than 1,000, then Rachel gets another 20 bucks. So the value if true, 20. Value if false, 0. So looking at this, let's take a look up here. We have our logical test right here. Then if it is greater than 1,000, we give that person another 20 bucks for that work. Otherwise, they don't get, it's just what they would ordinarily make. And we can drag this down and see that in cases where we are over 1,000, we do get that $20 bonus. Okay, so that's the if statement. Switch back. Next, we'll take a look at goal seek. A goal seek is an analytic function which allows a value in a formula to be adjusted in order to reach a desired result or answer. The goal seek function can eliminate a lot of unnecessary calculations. So goal seek repeatedly tries new values in the variable cell to find a solution that meets the criteria. So let's go ahead and look at a scenario And I'll bring up the goal seek spreadsheet. And we'll take a look at what we want to do. And there we are. So here we've got a spreadsheet, a data set, and we have a model set up. We have a raw data input, sales dollars, a raw data input, the bonus percentage that someone gets for a particular amount of sales. So in this case, it's 3%. So for $10,000, the bonus amount is going to be the percent times the sales dollars. And in this case, it comes out to $300. So let's say that the individual has a goal of making $2,500 in bonuses in a particular month. The question then is, how many sales dollars do they need at 3% in order to make that $2,500? Well, here's where the goal seek function comes into play. So we'll go over to the data tab. Then we come over to what if analysis, and we use the goal seek function. So now I've got the goal seek function, and I'm going to say I want to set cell B3 to 2,500 because that's the goal I want to make by changing cell B1. And then I click OK, and you'll notice that goal seek then changes the sales dollars until it finds the amount that equals to the required bonus amount. In this case, it's $83,333. So in order to make a $2,500 bonus in a month, I need to make sales of $83,000 and some dollars. So goal seek helps us do something like that very easily. Okay, let's go back. And the final function we'll study in the advanced functions is solver. Solver is part of a suite of functions that are often called what-if analysis tools. Solver is used when forecasting a problem that contains more than one variable. And solver uses multiple changing variables and constraints to find the optimal solution to solve a problem. So solver comes standard with the Excel package, but it has to be activated. And of course, we did that in the first lecture. So we don't need to do that at this point. Now, solver is very commonly used in optimization because businesses want to optimize things like minimize costs or maximize profits. That's known as optimization. Both a minimization and a maximization problem are known as optimization. And obviously some things business want to minimize and other things businesses want to maximize. But let's say we want to maximize our revenue. We have to maximize that revenue subject to the constraints we have on our resources. So we'll look at a model as an example of how to use solver. And I'll go over the model because it's important to see how we set up models. So I'll go over the models as we use them in examples. And then you'll get a second sense of how to put together a model inside of Excel. So I'll go ahead and switch over to that particular model. Now this is known as the Pony Espresso problem, and it's a coffee shop that sells three types of coffee: regular, premium, and mocha. And I have the quantities needed, the quantities that are being sold are indicated here. And I just put a placeholder of 1 in. And then the amount of money made on each type of coffee is the other given in the model: regular, premium, I make $2, regular, I make $1.25, and with mocha, I make $2.25. So with a quantity of 1, I make a subtotal of $1.25 in profits. With premium coffee and a quantity of 1, I make a subtotal of 2. And with mocha coffee, making with a quantity of 1, I make a subtotal for revenue of $2.25. My total revenue is the addition of these 3 subtotal revenues: D6, D10, and D14. So we add those up and we get total revenue. Here's the number of coffee cups I'm selling. So at this point, I'm only selling 1 regular. Premium is the combination of premium and mocha right here. And then total is the total number I'm selling, which is the quantity for for all 3 of those types of cups of coffee. Now, the franchisor has constraints. They're only going to allow us certain amounts of coffee. They have to distribute the coffee they have across franchisees across the whole United States. So the maximum cups of coffee we can sell are 500. So our total cups have to be less than 500. The maximum premium that we will get, in other words, both premium and mocha, are 350. Right now we have 2, so we're well within that. And the maximum mocha I can get any particular time period is 125. So we want to maximize our revenue, subject to the fact that regular cups is, well, the premium cups is less than the maximum premium, total cups is less than the maximum cups, and the mocha cups is less than the maximum mocha cups. So let's take a look at how we solve this type of problem. And we'll be getting into this in a lot more detail when we get to the later chapters in the book: linear optimization, integer optimization, and nonlinear optimization. But now is a good opportunity just to expose you to it so you have some familiarity in the future. So we'll go over to our data tab. And as we saw in the first lecture, we can open Solver. So I'll bring up Solver. And now we can, let me make sure, okay, I'll bring up Solver and I'll share that. So this is the Solver dialog box. Now, our objective function is total revenue, which is G4. That's in cell G4. That was where I had the total revenue function. We're going to maximize revenue. That's our goal here. And we're going to do that by changing our quantities, which were in cells D5, D9, and D13. We're going to have some constraints. The constraints are that the total number of cups of coffee for mocha, which is in D13, right, is less than the maximum allowed for mocha, which is in G13. Let's take a look at that. So I'll switch back for the folks online to the spreadsheet. So again, this is the maximum, this is the mocha we're selling. It has to be less than that. This is our total revenue. That's what we want to maximize. And we're going to do that by changing our quantities, which are D5, D9, and D13. So let's switch back here. And the other constraints that we see are going to be the total number of premium cups sold, which is in the cell G7, is less than or equal to the maximum premium cups allowed, which is in G12. And finally, the total cups sold in G8 is less than or equal the maximum cups of coffee they will send us packets for, which is in G11. So to solve it, once I have my constraints added, and we put where our objective function is, which is total revenue in this case, the optimization we want, which is to maximize, the variables we're going to change typically are quantities, D5, D9, D13, the quantity of regular, premium, and mocha respectively, subject to our constraints that we had in our constraints section of our model. So we'll go ahead and click solve. And let me reshare the screen then. Lost that, so we'll share here. And you can see that Solver changed our quantities from 1 for regular to 150, from 1 for premium to 225, and from 1 in mocha to 125. And we get the amounts, the revenue that we'll get is $918. So that's the maximized total revenue subject to our constraints. And we see how many regular cups of coffee we sell, how many premium we sell, and then how many total cups we sell. These are all less than or equal to our constraints. So we satisfied the constraints and we've maximized our revenue. So we do that with the solver function. Whenever you see a problem that involves maximizing some objective function or minimizing some objective function, like minimizing cost or maximizing revenue, and you have some constraints subject to you can't have more than so many labor hours for cutting the fabric, so many labor hours for sewing the fabric, so many labor hours for finishing the fabric, and then so many labor hours for distributing the fabric. You have constraints. So you can't just keep piling on and making money hand over fist. You make money subject to the constraints you're faced with. It's a constrained optimization. Solver is the tool to use for constrained optimizations. Okay, that concludes our work on advanced Excel. And again, this is hopefully a good exposure and introduction to you for these concepts. We'll be using them later on in the course, but it's good to just go over them now that we're reviewing how to use Excel, so you can see how to do these various things in Excel.